Hello, I am Avery or Hazel or Kylie. You can just pick one. I don't care.
Hello, I am Lily.
And we have been expecting you, Mr. Anderson.
It's Neo.
Yeah, Neo Anderson. Probably.
Probably.
Yeah, so welcome to the From the Closet podcast. Today we are covering The Matrix. You know, I was talking to some people about this, and this is the fourth rated R movie that we have ever covered, and it is the first one to not be a comic book movie.
Okay, Deadpool, Deadpool 2, X-Men.
X-Men was not rated R. The other one was Joker.
Ah. Wait, then what was the third one?
You said Deadpool, Deadpool 2, Joker.
Okay.
That's
And
three.
this is the fourth one.
Yeah.
Right. That's where my logic fell.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. I do think we're going to be covering our limited selection of rated R movies is kind of weird, but at the same time, a lot of them are just
Not good.
kind of not interesting, I would say.
When you get into those rated R, you can find movies that are rated R just to be rated R.
Yeah, I think that's the big issue. There's a lot of movies that are rated R just because, and there's also a lot of movies that are rated R that are horror movies, and we don't really cover those on this podcast.
It's true, yeah.
But yeah, as far as the other Matrix movies go, we are going to cover them, or at least we are going to cover 2 and 3. I can't say for sure on Matrix 4.
I heard it was trash anyway.
I heard mixed reviews on it, but I've also heard that Matrix 2 and 3 were trash, so
I will be the judge to that, I guess.
yeah. But anyway, was tomorrow going to be Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or did we determine that that was an error in the schedule?
Oh shit, maybe. Oh yeah. The new schedule now has The Matrix being a Tuesday, and now being followed next week being whatever the wheel lands on.
Yeah. So today, because of like weird differences in where I am recording, I had to spin the wheel before the podcast. And the wheel landed on X2 X-Men United.
Weird, I was just talking about X-Men.
Yeah. You can join us next week for that and something else, who knows. Also, we're already in 2023 and we did not realize that.
So, I mean, you probably already gotten a complete explanation because we have to go over and edit the episodes where we made a mistake. Thank God those haven't released yet.
Yeah.
There was a grave miscalculation in our scheduling, and we had to push everything back.
Not everything,
Most
just
things.
3 movies. Just 3 movies. But we had accidentally placed the SpongeBob SquarePants movie and the Phineas and Ferb movies on the release slots that were supposed to be dedicated to our Christmas special episodes. And we didn't notice it until today.
Honestly, I actually forgot about the Christmas specials until today.
Yeah. I'm hoping one of them is Elf, but of course, if you're listening to this podcast, you already know what those movies are because we've already covered them.
I bet one of the people watching is like, I wish you covered Elf.
I really do hope we can cover Elf. If it wasn't for my PS3 being broken, I think we for sure could.
took it to the back alley with a pipe. What?
But anyway, so this podcast episode will contain spoilers for The Matrix. You can find a link in the description to Just Watch, which will have links to all of the places where you can purchase, rent, or stream this movie. Our links are centered around the US, but if you use the app, it will automatically redirect you to your country's page. And if you use the website, you'll be able to change the country from the website page. Also in the description is a link to our Patreon where you can get access to episodes of this show early, as well as episodes of our sister show Off the Shelf, which is about books. And also you can vote on future episodes of this show. Also in the description is a link to Anchor.fm, which contains links to every other platform that this podcast is on, as well as links to our Instagram and Twitter, where you can be notified whenever we release a new episode. With all that being said, you have been warned about spoilers, so please leave now if you would like to avoid them.
Okay, the first thing I want to talk about The Matrix has nothing to do with the actual movie Matrix, but the other two movies. They were released on the same year.
Yeah, wasn't it 2001?
2003.
Later. Oh, wow. So the interesting thing about that, too, is like, I made the comment in our Spider-Man episode that The Matrix is an older movie than Spider-Man, and it still looks better. And yeah, I think this movie was 1999. I have the fucking page in front of me, and I apparently have to scroll to even see where the year is.
1999.
I can't see the year. Hold on. Yeah, okay. So The Matrix predates Spider-Man by 3 years, and it looks better. And I think that's kind of a sad reality, in my opinion. But
It definitely looked better. Though when we're talking about CGI, there's 3 scenes that we cannot ignore.
yeah, we will talk about those in a minute here. But yeah, I stand by my statement. The Matrix looks better, and it's mostly because, if I had to pinpoint anything, I'd say it's because Sony didn't really care about Spider-Man that much.
And do you know if the CGI was any better in the other Spider-Man movies?
It really did not improve all that much. Well, there was also things like reusing shots within like 5 seconds of each other. That was an issue in the Spider-Man movie. But yeah, so I bring this up partially because the other 2 Matrix movies came out a year after that movie.
Yeah.
And
if they're actually good, I'll be honest here, and I'll keep an open mind, but I really do not think these movies can be good because of how weird their release was. Like, what? Why? Why?
Yeah, it seems bizarre to me.
Super bizarre.
And I want to look up something real quick. So continue talking.
Yeah, I'm actually going to bring up the gross scenes right now. Mainly the 2 bug scenes where it gets in Neo, and then when it has to get out of Neo, and then when Neo wakes up from the Matrix. Especially that.
Yeah, all 3 of those scenes, they were disturbing enough to make me turn this movie off every time I have gone to go watch it until we decided to do this movie for the podcast. Because, until yesterday, which is when I watched it, I had never sat down and watched this movie all the way through.
And, yeah, these are really great movies. I don't even know
or at least this
how
movie is.
It would even feel watching this in theaters. Oh my god.
Yeah, and this is the movie that initially sold a lot of DVD players. DVD as a format released in 1997, and this movie was in 1999. A lot of people finally jumped on board when this movie came out on DVD. And I've had my gripes with DVD as a format. I think being limited to 480p is particularly bad for home video content in the modern era. I don't see why DVDs are still around, other than just the fact that honestly, the computer industry doesn't want to update to Blu-ray. I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Or there's an however. Because, I mean, back in that time, that probably was the best you can get.
Yeah, back then, fine. I'm glad the Matrix existed. It was a advancement, a massive advancement for home video because people were going to be buying DVD players. So it made DVD the standard for a while. I'm just saying that now at this point in 2022, I think it's an inadequate standard for home video.
At least the standard was not the stupid small discs that the GameCube used.
Oh my god. I don't even think those could hold most movies if they tried.
I just imagine you have to, like, this has half the movie, this has the other half the movie.
Yeah, and that's a particular issue with DVDs too, in a sense. A lot of the time, in a DVD release, you will never notice this on your own, but it absolutely is there. Um,
Hmm.
because of how the data is stored on a DVD disc, at a certain point, the movie has to pause to make the laser go from one layer to another layer. And usually the way the data is like stored on the disk, they will make sure that this pause is in between a cut so that you don't actually notice. But if you're trying to sync it up with a timer, let's say if you're watching like a reaction video to a movie, just as an example, you're going to get desynced.
I mean, it's a very interesting, especially how they use the hardware limitation. And this is a minor, super minor thing.
Yeah, I think the bigger issue is like storage capacity and like the fact that it's all 480p.
Yeah, that too. I mean, I can deal with 480p. I've dealt with a lot of things.
Yeah, I don't know. I would just rather be watching my movies in HD. Like, I can do that on my cell phone, but DVDs can't display above 480p, and I think that's pathetic.
I mean, back in the
Like, it's,
time, yeah. I mean, I think it's more pathetic that we're still using DVDs
yeah,
than just
that's the thing I'm trying
DVDs.
to say.
Like, DVDs had their purpose, and now it should be time to move on to the new era.
Yeah, but people don't want to, they're particularly the computer industry does not want to accept Blu-ray. And HD DVD really did not kick off.
I mean, the computer industry doesn't even matter anymore because, like, they're barely using disk drives anyway.
They are still using them, but like at the same time, if the computer industry, like in their disk drives, aren't going to accept Blu-ray, then neither are the console manufacturers, apart from Sony because they made Blu-ray.
Yeah, I
And
think it'd be a
Microsoft
waste to not use Blu-ray.
but like Microsoft, I think they eventually got on board with Blu-ray, but it took a while.
I don't know. It was either that or they did something like Nintendo did, where they just made a variation off of Blu-ray.
Yeah, which, even then that Nintendo consoles have never played movies, so it's really not a surprise that the Wii U couldn't play Blu-rays. Um,
I mean, I think at
but then
that point they
again,
just didn't want to pay Sony as well.
well, like it also couldn't play DVDs to my knowledge.
I mean, again, the same reason, but I feel like they made you know, that instead of just using already existing technology was because of they didn't want to pay Sony.
But yeah, so gripes with the Blu-ray, no, DVD format aside, this movie did sell them, and it's what made people buy DVD players. It was a huge advancement in the format, and I don't really think there's a particular movie that sold Blu-ray players. Like I don't. I think the thing that sold Blu-ray players was the PS3 being a Blu-ray player.
Honestly, I was just about to say that. Yeah. The PlayStation
But yeah,
3 basically pushed out Blu-ray.
yeah. So this movie, how do I put it? I feel like I have a few issues with this movie.
Hmm.
So I can't remember the character's name, but the character that betrays everybody, when he like starts revealing his plan, it's I don't know how to put it, but something made me feel detached from the scene, and I don't know if it was the acting or what, or the dialogue. Maybe it had to be one of the two. Something about that scene didn't feel right.
Well, I mean, it's
Um,
also that his intense dialogue, just like, he could have been, killing all these people without a second thought. But no, he's like rubbing it in.
yeah, like he's like rubbing it in, but it doesn't seem like Trinity is all that devastated by people that she cares about dying.
I think, you know, it feels weird when you say it like that. I guess when Trinity has already seen, probably has already seen a lot of people die that she cares about, and there's just a realization that this what they're on is on a very dangerous mission.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't quite sit right with me. It made me feel detached from the scene, like the deaths didn't even matter.
No, I think what made me feel detached from the scene was like, oh, I'm gonna talk so long that a Deus Ex Machina will just appear out of nowhere.
Yeah, but like also at the same time too, there's also an element in this scene where it's like this character gets incredibly close and comfortable with Trinity's body while she's stuck in the Matrix and can't consent, and it's a really, really awkward scene to watch. And there is something to be said. Like we discussed this yesterday,
Hmm.
off of the episode, but there is something to be said about writing assholes to be assholes. But at the same time, this kind of scene can be potentially a trigger for some people and bring back awful memories. And I feel like something like this should have content warnings at the beginning or on the case or something. Um,
And
Now,
this
there's
was
another scene later,
1990, so I don't 1999, so
1999.
most likely they didn't care.
I feel like I feel like the whole science behind triggers wasn't really even understood all that well. I feel like it's something that probably should have been included when we went to watch this movie on Tubi, because I assume that's also where you watched
Probably.
it.
Yeah. Though I mean, I watched it, the authentic hobo way. Though you do realize you could have watched it on HBO Max, right?
I did not realize that, no. I also have the DVD of this movie.
Huh. Yeah, no, I just wanted to watch it on Tubi to, this could have been a free movie of the month if we just planned it that way.
Yeah, but we had already put The Matrix on the wheel long before that, so it ended up being like this. And also, okay, so back on the consent thing, there's another scene a little bit later when Neo is finally able to escape the Matrix. Okay, sorry. There's a scene where Neo is still trapped in the Matrix and he dies. And Trinity kisses his corpse. They again, they haven't built up a relationship yet. Um, so it does strike me as a weird scene because there's no consent involved. That said, there is a consensual kiss like 5 minutes later, so it's something that can be forgiven.
You know, so while you were talking, I just thought of the stupidest thing. Just just imagining like a YouTube poop that's just he dies and Trinity goes up to him, is like dying is gay. He's like and comes back to life.
Wow. I don't think I would have ever pictured that.
I don't know why it came to me, but yeah,
Your brain is weird.
I feel like you
Your
already knew
brain is
that.
really weird. So something I do want to say, I really love the Oracle. I think that whole scene with the Oracle was my favorite part of this movie.
It's definitely an interesting adaptation of an oracle.
Yeah, and the interesting thing I found about it that I pointed out to you yesterday in our private
Mhm.
conversations was that Morpheus specifically tells Neo that the Oracle will tell him what he needs to hear. But what he doesn't say is that the Oracle will tell him the truth.
And there's some. What I love about the oracle so much is that she says, "Don't mind about the vase," and then he breaks the vase, and then but the line after around that was, "Would you have still broken the vase if I hadn't said anything?"
Yeah, like that. This is the kind of stuff that I love.
It's just like I was even thinking about that too. I'm glad that they addressed it.
Yeah. So another thing that I was thinking throughout this movie, and again, this is another thing I told you about yesterday.
Hmm.
This movie reminded me a lot of In Time. And I say this because I think In Time was trying to copy this movie. They both open on green numbers moving around, although granted, like the location of the numbers in Time isn't moving, it's just the numbers are changing. Um,
I mean, also in time, the entire concept of the movie was around these green numbers.
yeah. And then like also to like this opening thing had narration with it. Um, So yeah, like there's that, but then also I don't think it's a coincidence that the timekeepers in that movie looked pretty much exactly like the agents in this movie.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this movie and like, is there really a villain? Obviously, it's the AI, but that's just programmed to be, self preservation.
The true villains was the humans we made along the way.
Oh, God.
But yeah, it the whole concept of like AI, like humans creating AI and the AI essentially wiping us out has at this point gotten to be a bit cliche. I don't think it was quite cliche in 91, 99.
What I like about this movie is not the AI wiping us out, they're putting us into a fictional world just full of
Yeah,
dreams.
and essentially using us as batteries, which Pixar theory anyone?
Hmm. Now, why am I starting to see
Because
correlations here?
yeah, because like that's apparently what the monsters are doing. And hold up, you know, before I fully finish that thought, I want to look up when Monsters Inc. came out.
I know somewhere in the 2000s.
You know, for some reason I was thinking it was 99. It was 2001.
Huh.
I'm not saying Monsters Inc. copied this movie, but Monsters Inc. copied this movie.
I don't know. No. No.
It's a joke. It was clearly a joke, Lily. Come on.
I know it's a
The
joke. I'm not that
the
dense.
way I phrased it. The way I phrased it, clearly it was a joke. But yeah, like I don't know, it's a very similar concept because the humans are fueling the monsters' cities. Um,
Though, I'm sorry, the way that you're relating to this, I'm just thinking like the next 10,000 years in Monsters timeline, they're starting to put humans into virtual reality.
yeah. Um, everything's just kind of a mess. I can kind of how do I put this? The AI are winning this war. You could argue they've already won, and that this is a second war.
Yeah. Um, okay, I want to talk about the ending to this movie. Because I kind of really like it. If there was never a sequel, it ended on a good part, but it still leaves opening for sequels. If the entire thing was just one, Matrix bye bye, it wouldn't feel earned. You
And
know.
it's also like something too is that it's implied like well, it's actually directly stated that there was another Matrix before this one.
Oh right, that people just didn't like. So there's obviously the Matrixes. The Matrix went
Okay,
through
so
different adaptations before they got to the actual one.
the plural of matrix is matrices, but like that's a
That's an
continue.
obscure. Well, that's an obscure word.
Yeah, it is, but it's something that I unfortunately had to learn. I think in was it in Trig? I think it was in Trig.
Why? Okay, yeah, I'm
Uh,
not even gonna ask. Um,
yeah, it doesn't matter.
like this, if if no sequels were released to this movie, this would still be a satisfying ending.
Yeah, I agree. And I know I have heard many people talk about how the sequels are bad, so
I've
I'm kind of gonna be interested in watching them.
yeah, I've heard talk. I don't think I've heard May talk about how the 2 and 3 are bad. I've heard a lot of time about how 2 and 3 were good, and a lot of talk about how 4. What is a 4? Never heard of that.
So, this movie, the two directors of this movie are trans women, and this movie is incredibly popular with trans women. Like, it is on the same level as Mulan for trans men.
Yeah. So one day I wanted to just see just go to one of those videos where they talked about that and just look at the comments. I sort of I knew, by the way. So,
Hmm.
and the copium ingested by these Matrix fans. Oh my god. Like, the Matrix wasn't even that good. Yeah, you probably loved it until they revealed this.
You know, honestly, sorting YouTube comments by new is always a recipe for disaster. Always.
Yes, this is why I'm
And
addicted to it.
another recipe for disaster in YouTube comments is clicking the replies button and looking at the replies.
I did both.
Yeah, I know you do. I used to, and then I realized, no, this is just how you see a bunch of toxic shit, and then I quit.
I mean, I always knew how to find toxic shit, and I wanted to see the stupid arguments used by these people. A lot of the people would actually argue, like, that's not the creator. And some would even go to dead naming.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So yeah, both of the directors are trans women. This is just like established fact. You can't disagree with it. Um, but also, like a lot of this movie can be seen as like really good trans allegory. Like Neo, goes through a transformation, not necessarily a physical one, um, where like he learns more about who he is as a person, and that allows him to do a lot more things that than he ever could before. Obviously, in the context of a movie, this is realized in the form of what basically amounts to superpowers.
Yeah, that honestly probably one of the coolest scenes.
Yeah, like going into this movie, the one thing I kind of there were two things I already knew. I knew there was going to be some ridiculous bullet dodging scenes, and I knew that at some point there was going to be a mention of sunlight being missing. And I really only knew that because Red versus Blue made a reference to it.
Uh, this movie um is perfectly set up, I would say. Especially how you know the traitor and you don't know who, like, when is he going to strike? How is he going to strike?
Yeah, and I really do appreciate like that inclusion because it creates extra tension and suspense that I don't know if the movie would have been able to generate otherwise.
Yeah, if he just came out of the blue, saying his weak motives, I don't think it would be as good as him literally saying his motives to the bad guys, like, and explaining, his deal.
Yeah, and honestly, yeah, his motivations are weak as shit. But that doesn't matter because of what the scene itself accomplishes. He's not the main villain, so he's allowed to have weak motivations.
And what's so interesting about this is that, all these people in the Matrix, those are just the guards. What are the AI actually doing with this power?
Who knows? But yeah, I've covered pretty much everything I want to say about this movie.
Really? Already?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's not really too much more to talk about. I talked about the scenes that bothered me. I talked about some of the things I like. I mean, I guess I can say the there are a lot of things that are kind of extremely predictable here. But
I
I
mean,
don't really necessarily think that's a bad thing.
and also there could be an argument to be made about how a lot of things that this movie accomplished went on to become more or less tropes.
Yeah. And then like also the Trinity and Neo romance isn't really that interesting to me.
Oh yeah, no, not really. I mean, they barely had that much. They didn't even have that much time to connect. But whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's just
Trinity is basically just like, the Oracle told me I would love someone. Cool, I guess. I mean, it's whatever.
yeah, it's like I don't care.
I just want to know, like, how far can this Matrix go? I guess there's only one way to find out, and it's go to the rest of the movies.
Yeah. So we'll get there eventually. But for now, do you think do you think this is a good time to go ahead and jump into the critic ratings?
Best of time as any.
All right. So IMDb gives this movie an 8.7 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes gives it an 88%. Metacritic has it at 73%, and 90% of Google users liked this movie.
This movie, despite its three flaws that I
I
do
think it.
not, the three flaws that I count, that basically make me want to turn off the movie. Um, Still a great movie and probably would go on to be timeless. So, with that all of the way, I think this movie deserves an 8.4.
I'm giving this movie an 8.0.
Hmm.
And with all of that being said, you can join us next week for X2 X-Men United. Um, so yeah, look forward to that. And until next time, I've been Avery, that's been Lily, and we'll be seeing you.